Hello. Today I'm here with my friend Jose. Say
Hello.
hi, Jose.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good.
We are in lovely Laveen. And Jose, how many roses do you have?
I had 9,
I had 9.
but right now I only have 6, and I'm
Yeah.
trying to keep them alive.
Well, that's good. Keeping roses alive is good. We would like to not kill our roses. With it being summer right now, one of the biggest issues with keeping roses alive is providing adequate water. So I took a look at Jose's rose garden, and we have different plants. These ones here actually look pretty good that we're next to. Um, these are Jose's more mature established plants, so they are doing better than some of the newer ones that we put in. You put them in this year, right? This
Yes, I
spring?
put them in this spring.
Yeah. So some of the unestablished, when they're unestablished like that, sometimes, we have to get the watering a little bit better for them because they need to establish their roots in the ground. That way they can cool down and keep themselves cool during summer and not burn up. So like I did a previous video, my irrigation video, which I hope you watched.
Yes.
Yes. And I did a soaker hose video. And as kind of a follow-up to this, I kind of wanted to consult with Jose, and we can go kind of measure how much soaker hose footage we would need. We'll go to the store, pick it up, and kind of show us installing a soaker hose. We'll also take a look at a couple of Jose's roses to see how they're doing, and maybe some suggestions that we can try to keep them alive during the summer.
Yes.
So we'll be doing that in this episode. So we will show kind of how to lay out the soaker hose, some tips on irrigating, and maybe some other things I see in Jose's yard. So I'll zoom in on a couple of his bushes, and we'll just kind of take a look at them. So.
Thank you.
So here we have one of Jose's roses. You can see he still has the tag on it, and it's the Sentimental Rose by Weeks Roses. And I would say overall, this rose is looking really good. Like the foliage is nice and green. We have some salt burn, but that's fine. Overall, the bush is nice and green. It seems to be doing pretty well. It's still putting on new blooms. Even though these blooms are not as big as they would be in cooler temperatures, that's perfectly normal, perfectly expected to have these smaller blooms when the temperatures get really warm. And you can see this is all new foliage, and it's actually looking pretty good. But if we just come over a couple feet this way, we can see this guy here is definitely not looking as good as the previous rose bush. And just looking at it, it does look like it's getting a little hot, and watering is most likely the issue here. So this one is ketchup and mustard. I do have this one in my yard, and mine looks pretty good. So I think that the ketchup and mustard does do well here in the heat, but we just need to find a good watering schedule and a good method of watering for him and his soil. Being that these are so close together, one of the things as I'm looking around the yard that I see is that previous one probably gets a bit more shade than this one. I think this guy's getting a lot of evening, like hot night, day sun. So one of the recommendations I am going to make is that we need to mulch around the base of this plant. It's going to keep it considerably cooler, and when we water it, it'll hold on to the moisture longer. That'll really help, or it should really help. We're also going to go to the store and pick up the soaker hose, so we'll just make sure that when we're applying the water to this plant, that we're getting it nice and deep. That way these roots can cool down, and hopefully that really helps this guy to survive and flourish. If that's not the case, then we can come back and reassess. But even though this looks kind of deathly and sad, we can see that it still does have new growth on it, so it's not like all hope is not lost for this plant. So if you have a rose that looks like this, it's not the end of the world. I think that as long as you make some adjustments to your watering and probably mulching, just make sure you've got a lot of mulch, that we could probably get this guy to look good again. So we are gonna go to a Lowe's or a Home Depot or any nursery, go pick up some mulch to mulch these guys, and we'll install a soaker hose. So we will be back. So we're back here with the ketchup and mustard rose. So one of the things that I do want to mention is the way that this is buried here. There's quite a bit of root or trunk root sticking out of the ground here. So when we go to plant our roses, we ideally want them to about here. You can kind of see that the way we've been watering before, this down here is kind of is eroded out around, and that's not ideal for the roots of the rose, because we really want this covered with dirt. That way it's keeping the roots cooler. And when we have the roots so close to the top of the surface, that's the part that's going to evaporate out. The water is going to evaporate out the quickest here at the surface. And with this erosion around here, it's probably drying out quite considerably. So the mulch is really going to help to cool it off, and it's also going to help keep the moisture in the mulch. So that's what I do recommend here. This is good. And then one thing that I would recommend doing when we get the mulch down is taking a hose and spraying this down or watering this down, because it's going to compact it a little bit and it'll get the entirety moist, which is what we want. And then we can maybe even add a little bit more mulch. So if you could get a hose. So this stream of water out of the hose is probably pretty good. It's maybe still a little high, but it's not bad. And we just kind of want to go over the mulch and just get it saturated. And this is going to be a really good rate. And then we can see here we've got the appropriate amount of rose sticking up out of the ground. And over time, this mulch will break down. And so once you start seeing this stem popping out more and more, then we'll want to apply more mulch. So we have this guy nice and mulched. He's watered down. He should stay nice and cool, or at least cooler than he was before. So the mulch that we used is this Grow Mulch. You can see it even has a picture of a rose on the bag, so good stuff. This has, it's a planting and mulch mix, and this is what I use to both plant and mulch my roses with. It's worked pretty good. It's organic, but it has some fertilizing properties to it, so it does help kind of feed your roses as well as act as a mulch to just keep them cool. Okay, so now we got all of the roses nice and mulched. That should help keep them nice and cool. So the next part that we need to do is kind of figure out how we want to set up our soaker hose. So Jose, you were thinking you might want to do two areas?
Yeah, 2 sections.
So this half of the yard on one hose and then this half on the other?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And then so to do that, to kind of get an idea of how long we need the hose, we can do what I call pacing. Have you ever paced before?
No.
No. So I actually learned this in school. One of the useful things I learned in school. But a pace is basically you know, left, right, one pace, and an average pace or gait is about 5 feet. So, and you can actually kind of calibrate this using a tape measure if you'd like, but to get a real quick and dirty just measurement in the yard, it's something I do all the time. So I'll just kind of pace left, right, 5 feet. So you can count in fives. It's very easy. It gets you a really rough number really quickly. So we'll do that for this side of the yard and that side of the yard, and we'll kind of get an estimate about how long of a soaker hose we're going to need, and then we'll go ahead and lay it out.
Sounds good.
All right, thank you. So this is the left side, we'll just call it left side of Jose's yard. And so we'll probably start the soaker hose about at that oleander there to the left, and then we'll take it around those 2 rose bushes, around that chili plant that's doing nice, very good with the chili plant. And then we'll probably end there at this rose dead ahead of me. You can paste that one off, and then to the right of me, he's got, you can see the ketchup and mustard that we've been working on back there. The sentimental, this guy will need to get replaced. We've got a ruella, and then we've got another rose. So we'll make this the separate, the right side. And so we'll use 2 different soaker hoses because they are kind of broken up. And if we try to get these all onto one soaker hose, it'd probably be too long. So it is good to break up the soaker hoses, and then you'll just have to water them. You'll hook them up separate and water them separately. So. All right, so we're going to start at the oleander, and I'm just going to pace around the area that we want the hose. And again, 1 step, so left, right, that's 1, so I'll count in 5. So here we go. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 25-ish. So we've got 25. So again, if we want to think about the soaker hose, we're gonna want to wrap it around. So I would double that. So we probably want about a 50-foot hose here. So again, we're gonna want to start this hose maybe here or back there. Nevertheless, this will be the beginning or ending. And again, I'll pace it. So 5, 10, 15, 20. Woo. So again, we have about 25 feet, so probably another like 50-foot hose here. So we will go get a hose. I'll be back. Okay, so if you couldn't hear me because I wasn't mic'd before, we paced them both sides out, and wow, Jose did a really good job spacing his roses. We had about 25 feet on both sides of the yard, which is going to be about a 50-foot hose. So that is what we got, a 50-foot soaker hose. We did get this at the Home Depot, and as fate would have it, we got 2 50-foot hoses, and that's all they had. So perfect. We'll want to uncoil this and kind of unwrap it. That way it gets all of its stored coilness energy kind of out, and then we can try and wrap it around where we want to put it in the yard. Okay, so we're going to start with the end of the soaker hose, and this guy will be the end of the line. So Jose's making a nice loop, and here he's kind of doubled it, which is fine. If we run out of soaker hose, we can't make it to the end of the line, we could undouble this and get a little bit more hose out of it. But now we're just going to try and lay the hose around flat. Jose is gracefully wrapping it. See how it gets twisted, and if you don't have that coil all uncoiled, it can be a little difficult to put down. Jose, if you kind of like grab where it's kinking like from there, and then you're gonna have from there, kind of unravel it to the end of the hose. It'll try and unkink it a little. So when you first install them, they kind of will pop up off the ground like this, and that's fine. Over time, they will settle down. So, and what we've done here, he's done a really good job ringing this around the whole base of the rose. and making sure the whole entirety of the root zone is going to get saturated when we do turn the hose on to water. Here you can see we do have, Jose, could you show the extra hose? So we do have actually quite a bit of extra hose here left over, but it's better to have too much than too little. So we can, there you go, plan for future use and add a new hose here. And then another thing too, is this a good spot in your yard for the hose connection?
Yes.
Yeah, so good. We have it laid out so that we can easily hook up the hose. We've got room for a future plant, and this did make it quite comfortably around all of the plants that we intended to water. So let's hook this guy up with a hose and see it in action. Okay, so you can see here it is leaking a little bit. Mine do tend to leak here, but this is a shorter hose, so I think that, Jose, we could get away with turning down the water a little bit and see if it stops leaking so much. We do want to check to make sure that it is beating out everywhere and it's getting all the way to the end of the hose. Sometimes, especially with the longer hoses, you can have maybe the water on a little too little and the pressure isn't building up enough to get it to the end. But this is a good size length hose, this 50-foot hose, and you can see it's dripping all the way to the end. So this does look really good. And if I were Jose, I would probably leave this on 2 to 4 hours, and we can do kind of a soil penetration test to check how deep this ended up watering in his soil. So on this side, we are going to start back here. You can see these two unfortunately did not make it. The summer got to them, but Jose does plan on replanting here. So I think it's a good idea to get the hose out where we will want it in the future. So let's go ahead and get the second side down. So again, we're starting with the end of the hose, and we'll just wrap around the rose bushes. Again, we have another one that didn't make it this summer. That is okay. That is sometimes how life happens. There is life and death, but we'll replant him, and hopefully we've come up with a good irrigation system that will be able to keep our future roses alive through the summer. So there we have it. There's the end of the line, or the beginning of the line rather. Something to keep in mind is we do want this to be in a good direction, to end up in a good direction to hook up to your hose. So you may want to wrap it the other way, or if you're okay with coming in off, you'll have to put the hose around this way. So, but otherwise it looks pretty good. The 50-foot hose length seems to have worked out for us. The pacing, the rough measurement with the pacing worked very well. And again, I do like the size of this soaker hose. It's really, I think, a lot easier to work with than the longer hose. All right, well, that was a good day, wasn't it, Jose?
Yes.
We got some mulch. We got some mulch down on the plants, and we got both of our soaker hoses installed, and we even got it done before it got really, really, really hot. So
Perfect.
It was a good day. So thank you to Jose. Thank you.
Thank you for coming out here, taking the time to come out here and getting my garden going so I don't lose my roses.
And we'll come back. Maybe let me know how it's working. If they're getting better, getting worse. Because if they're getting worse, then we've got a problem, and we'll need to reassess. But we'll definitely want to show everybody how they're doing, and if it's helping with your rose garden. So we'll come visit Jose again. And until then, we'll see you guys later. Bye. Oh, there's a praying mantis. Do you see it?
Where?
It's right there.